Okay, function decomposition. This is going the other way from what we've done before. Now I'm given a function and I'm being told this is f of g. Meaning I've got one function that's been embedded inside of another one. And we're being asked, what are those two functions? And a lot of times, in reality, there could be an infinite number of answers here. We want to pick a very useful example. Typically, if we're giving you one of these, it'll be multiple choice, so you don't have to worry that your answer might not be the correct one. But in most cases, there's very intuitive answer. Before we get into it, this is hugely useful in calculus. You've got something in calculus called the chain rule. In order to perform this, you've got to be able to think of any formula you're given. You need to be able to imagine this as one function embedded into the other. So this will be really useful in calculus as the chain rule, as part of the chain rule. If you're not going into calculus, that's okay. This is a very simple idea. In fact, we're about to cover another calculus rule that's relatively straightforward. And hopefully, if you are taking calculus, you'll be a little less nervous about it. And if you're not taking calculus, well, you should still be less nervous about it, because there's not a lot to it, even though people like to get really scared by it. So now that I've rambled for a bit, maybe you've already figured out the answer. What I'm looking for when I'm asked to decompose something, typically I'm looking for an outside function, so like the most outer thing here, that I could plug something into. In this case, it's really easy for me to see I'm taking some stuff here. I'm taking x plus 2 and I'm cubing it. I'm raising it to the third power. I think of that third power as being my outside function. So what is f of x? I would say that is x cubed. And then what would I plug in for x in order to get x plus 2 cubed? Well, if you want, you could rewrite this as blank cubed. Right? That's what x cubed means. It means you've got an opening there that you could then raise to the third power. And what am I plugging into that? Well, what's in our parentheses right above it? It's x plus 2. So if you take x plus 2 and you plug it into x to the third, you get x plus 2 to the third. So if you're still struggling to follow, just take these two functions I've written and then compose them. Like if I then ask you to find f of g using these functions I've given you, well, if I'm placing g into f, and our first step is typically rewrite f without an x, so write it as blank cubed, and then what am I plugging into that? I'm plugging in x plus 2. And is that what we had up here? Yes, it is. Our next example, very similar idea. I'm looking for like some big outer function. The last thing that we're doing here is we're squaring this. If I was plugging in something for x, I would square it, subtract 1, and then I would take my whole answer and take the square root. So that outer function, that's going to be my f. When I'm plugging g into f, f is on the outside, g is on the inside. Right, so my outer function here, what am I plugging stuff into? It's just that square root. So it's square root of blank. And here we're writing an x instead of that blank. Now the question is, what would we plug in for this x in order to get square root of x squared minus 1? Well, instead of taking the square root of x, I want to take the square root of x squared minus 1. So that is our g. G is x squared minus 1. And you see, if you take x squared minus 1 and you plug it in for this x in f, that gives us the square root of x squared minus 1. The last example here, I just want to show you, it's not always some big overarching function. It's not always an exponent. It's not always a root. We could also have a function like this, where there's a different type of pattern. Here I've got x cubed repeated in my problem. That is going to be what I'm going to be plugging in. And what am I plugging it into? If I was going to take 4x minus 10 divided by x plus 7, what happens when I plug in x cubed? Now I've got 4x cubed minus 10, and then x cubed plus 7. So this is the other way they can go, where you're plugging in an exponent, you're plugging in a root, etc., to another function. I would say these are probably less common, but it's very, very possible. Also, in reality, in calculus, you'll see all kinds of interesting compositions, but these are the basic ones. You've got something raised to a power, you've got the root of something, and occasionally something like this, where you've got a repeated operation of some kind.